Hey, Eternal Family. I posted a couple of days ago, whenever, what is time, about the Mountain Meadows Massacre recently, wondering if the roles were reversed and it was Mormon settlers who had been killed at Mountain Meadows instead of the perpetrators, what the church's response would have been. I've thought previously about the Mormon Church's non-apology for Mountain Meadows and what a proper apology would look like. In 1857, Mormon settlers murdered about 120 men, women, and children at Mountain Meadows in southern Utah. They lured them out from behind their wagons under a white flag. They promised them safe passage, and then they killed all of them, except for the tiniest children who were too young. Any pre-verbal children got to live because they were too young to bear witness against them. That was more than 150 years ago. The church has never to this day apologized, and its leaders have said on the record that the institution does not give apologies. What a great example. Do they expect their members to be good at humbling themselves and apologizing if they refuse to? Here's the question I want to answer. What would a real apology even sound like? It turns out that there's research on that. A specific list of things an apology has to do to actually work. We're going to build the apology the church should have given. Then we're going to score it. Then we're going to score the one it actually gave. By the end, you'll see how the church did. Okay, Eternal Family, let's get into it. Researchers who study apologies have broken down what separates a real one from a performative one. And it has 10 elements, give or take. But we're going to make it 10. Number 1, a statement of apology. The basics. I'm sorry. I apologize. Number 2, you name the offense. What specifically did you do? 3, you take responsibility. I did this, not you, not anyone else. 4, you explain the cause. That is not making an excuse. That is an honest account of what made the harm possible, what allowed you to do this. Those 4 elements are about honesty, and the next 6 are about accountability. 5, you express real remorse, not performed remorse. 6, you address the other person's emotions. You name the impact your actions had on them. 7, you admit fault. I shouldn't have done this. 8, you promise it won't happen again. And you say how. 9, you offer reparations. You ask what would help, or you propose something concrete. 10, you request forgiveness. Hold on to those 10. Now we're going to build the apology the church should have given, and then we're going to score the one it actually gave. Here's what those 10 elements sound like applied to the Mountain Meadows Massacre. Number 1, a statement of apology. The church would say, we are deeply sorry for the harm members and leaders of our church caused your families and your communities. 2, you name the offense. Members of our church murdered your ancestors. They lured them out under a white flag. They promised them safety, and then they killed almost everyone. They spared only the children too young to speak about what had happened, and then those children were taken into the homes of the people who had killed their parents. 3, you take responsibility. This was not a few rogue men. Local church and militia leaders organized it. Mormon settlers carried it out. The institution protected itself afterwards. Your family members did nothing to deserve it. Number 4, you explain the cause. In Mormonism, that would look something like, we taught blood atonement. We demanded absolute obedience to authority. We taught our people to see outsiders as the enemy. None of that excuses what we did, but it is part of how we became capable of it. That's the honest half. The next half might be even harder. 5, you express remorse. The church would say, we're ashamed when we sit with it. The terror, the betrayal, the sorrow that we feel for what we did to you. That would be an understatement. Number 6, you address the emotions. Your families have carried this for more than 160 years. You had to fight for the truth while we denied it, minimized it, and blamed other people for it. We did that to you. 7, you admit fault. You would say what we did was evil. Killing innocent people is evil. Killing children is evil. Doing it in the name of God makes it worse. We were wrong, completely. 8, promise it won't happen again. The church would say, we'll stop teaching that obedience to leaders outranks a person's own conscience. We'll teach our members to question authority. We will stop treating outsiders as threats. We'll tell our history honestly so that people understand what unchecked power costs. Number 9, you offer reparations. You'd say, we want to pay reparations to every descendant we can identify. We want to build a memorial and an education centre that tells the whole unsanitized truth. We're opening every document we have, and we'll ask you what you want, what would actually matter, and then we'll follow your lead. And then finally, the 10th element, the 10th step you would do is actually request forgiveness. The church would say, we hope that someday you might forgive us. We understand if you can't, we don't get to decide what's forgivable and what's not. Our job is to tell the truth, take responsibility, and repair what we can. If forgiveness comes or not, that's out of our control. That's what those 10 elements would sound like, and here's what the church did do instead. For more than a century, the church did the opposite of every one of those 10s. First, the church allowed outsiders to take the blame. I mean, saying allowed outsiders to take the blame is a little bit softening. Let's say they scapegoated and put the blame on others. The men who did the killing took a vow of silence, and the official story became 4 words. The Paiutes did it. Utah school children were taught that version of history for decades. Then the church found a scapegoat. When federal investigators finally closed in, the man who paid the price was John D. Lee. His first trial in 1875 ended in a hung jury. The Mormons seated on the jury voted to acquit him. By the second trial, a year later, something had changed. The prosecution dropped its pursuit of the other participants, and an all-Mormon jury convicted Lee alone. He was executed by firing squad at the massacre site in 1877. Everyone else who participated, they just went home. Now, John D. Lee and Isaac Haight, they were cut off from the church. John D. Lee was publicly excommunicated for being, a murderer. And then, in 1961, with no announcement, the church restored John D. Lee to full membership. So I guess he makes it to the celestial kingdom after all. Mostly the church's response has been to simply stay silent. The church denied their involvement well into the 20th century, long after the evidence was undeniable, and then it refused out loud to apologize. I mean, the hubris. In 2007, after Henry B. Eyring expressed, quote, profound regret, close quote, at the massacre site, a church spokesman clarified, for the record, we don't use the word apology. We used profound regret. Make no mistake, just in case you made the mistake and thinking the church was doing a decent thing, it just has to clarify, it's not. Years later, Dallin H. He again made the institutional position flatly clear. He says the church doesn't seek apologies and doesn't give them. Noted. He also pointed out that the word apology isn't in the scriptures, so let's score it. Do we have a statement of apology? No. Named the offense? No. Taking responsibility? Okay, don't be stupid. Explaining the cause, any reckoning with the doctrine, obedience, religious violence, blood atonement, anything that made it possible to justify? No? Okay. Remorse? Obviously not. Addressing the families? Barely. Owning the cover-up? No. No acknowledgement of a cover-up. A promise to change? Absolutely not. Reparations? With as poor as the church is? A request for forgiveness? Well, there can't be one because there's no admission that there was ever anything to forgive. 10 elements, final score, 0. Here's the closest the church has ever come. In 1999, dedicating the memorial at the site, President Gordon B. Hinckley said, this is not a time for recrimination or the assigning of blame. No one can explain what happened in these meadows. We may speculate, but we do not know. Then he said, that which we have done here must never be construed as an acknowledgement on the part of the church of any complicity. Close quote. I mean, again, we get it. You don't have to hit us over the head with your awfulness. It's like, just so we're clear, we're fucking awful. A monument dedicated with the explicit instruction that dedicating it admits nothing. 0 out of 10. If you want the full history of the massacre itself, I think the Sunstone Mormon History Podcast has the best researched account out there. and I will see you next time.